Hi, and welcome to BizTech's APAC Cybersecurity Show. Now, every week we update the region on the latest threats and incidences to help you protect yourselves better. Now, today we have a special show where we talk about the Singapore Cyber Landscape Report that was just released on the 23rd of June. Now, with me is my regular co host, Benjamin Ang, Head of Cyber and Homeland Defense and Center of Excellence for National Security at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Now, Ben, welcome to the show.
Always glad to be here, Brian.
Now, Ben, you had a hand in this Singapore Cyber Landscape 2022 report. What are the key contents of this document?
Brian, I have to say that I only had a very tiny part, wrote an article that's right at the end, but I'm really, really proud to be part of this document. And this is the Singapore Cyber Landscape 2022, CSA Singapore's annual report on the cyber threat landscape. And it contains what happened in 2022, all the cyber threats that hit Singapore and the rest of the world, and also what Singapore did on policy level, and very importantly, stories of real businesses and real people that were victims of cyber attacks and what they did about it.
Okay, that's very interesting. Real stories about victims, and that's obviously a very unique proposition of this because a lot of times we never get that aspect of when people talk about cybersecurity. How do the victims feel? How are they impacted, and so forth. Now, what are the other unique things that are in this report?
Brand, on top of that, is a great catalog of free resources that are available from Singapore's government. And don't worry, you don't need a Singapore passport to access these free resources, as well as a lot of good advice for how small businesses and individuals can protect themselves. And of course, as you were saying, the stories themselves are great lessons that you can draw from it because we learn so much from these stories. These are stories that people would never tell to the press or to the media, but because they know they're being interviewed in a very confidential manner, their identities are hidden, they are very frank about what they experienced, what it was like, and what they learned from these experiences.
Now, one of the things is, which always is identified as key global trends. What are the key trends that have been identified in this report?
Well, the key global trends, I would say, are trends which are relevant to small states like Singapore. And well, look at the major reports that we see coming out usually come from the US. And the things that they are worried about are, of course, being attacked by other large countries, which is not necessarily a concern of all our small states. So instead, Singapore's been looking at the increase of phishing and phishing emails and business email compromise is huge. It's increasing. Ransomware is kind of stable. It's still bad, it's stable. And taking over of internet connected things is still stable. It's still bad, but still stable. But phishing is really on the rise. And there's even a section, even though this is talking about 2022, it's published in 23. So there's even a section talking about what could be the risks when AI tools like ChatGPT and artificial video are used to increase the convincing part of these scams.
And this is really important, and this is really relevant. And obviously, it was just released on the 23rd of June. So this is really up to date stuff that will be useful to all of us. But finally, Ben, what are some key actionables that they have identified that perhaps SMEs and even large companies can make use of?
I definitely say read all the way till the end, the ending parts in the page, in the 90s pages, 90 something pages, and look at all the tips that are there for individuals and for small businesses, how to protect yourself with your, and it's things that we've been talking about all along. Strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and also to report things that you see. Because the more we report fake websites, fake phishing campaigns, the more the authorities are able to do something about it and work with the banks even to stop money from being sent out or being able to even retrace some of the money.
Now, Ben, where will we find this report?
You can find it at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore's website, which is csa.gov.sg.
Okay,
csa.gov.sg.
and just a reminder again, csa.gov.sg. On that note, we've come to the end of this week's APAC Cybersecurity Show. Ben, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Benjamin Ang, who's the head of cyber and homeland defense at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. And this has been BizTech's APAC Cybersecurity Show. I'm Brian Fernandez. Check out this interview on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.